my Talbot County Public Schools training program, otherwise known as a TTP, which is pretty much a look at a proposed training that I'm hoping to be able to implement within Talbot County Public Schools. So before I get started with all of my information, I do want to get started with exactly who I am. So my name is Daniela Gilligan, and I grew up in Prince George's County, Maryland, and I've been a Maryland resident my entire life. I ended up going to Stevenson University for elementary education, and I have worked with students in Baltimore County and Carroll County within that time. And when I finally graduated, I ended up teaching and starting my teaching career at Talbot County Public Schools in 2020. So my first year teaching was a virtual year. It was that crazy year where everyone started virtual and some came back, some didn't. However, I taught virtual the entire year, and I ended up teaching 4 out of our 5 elementary school students who ended up staying virtual during that period. And I saw how quickly technology integration within our school setting was so important. And I knew that I wanted to stay with this track of implementing technology. And that is why I decided to attend University of Maryland Global Campus to obtain my master's in instructional technology. So with that being said, this proposed training program came about from a survey. I sent out a survey to the teachers at St. Michael's Elementary, and I wanted to know where they stood on their knowledge of technology integration, the pieces of technology integration, and professional development. So I asked them questions like what grade they worked with, what content area, kind of also what was their use of technology before I even said anything else. How much do they know about technology already? So that included things such as the ISTE standards, the 4Cs, also talked about professional development of have you received professional development from our county? Yes, no, no professional development at all. I kind of want to see where they were at. And I got so much information from these 9 questions. So to start, 13 teachers ended up responding from various grade levels and content areas. Out of those 13 students, 84% of those use technology every day in their classrooms. However, 23 of them have never received professional development on technology integration at all. And 61% of them were not even aware of our ISTE standards, which, very similar to standards that we use for our curriculum every day, are the standards for technology integration of, okay, are you using your technology intentionally, or are you just asking your students to do research? But why? So it's so interesting to know that 61% of them were not even aware of our ISTE standards. So here's just a couple of the graphs that I did pull from the survey, which did reflect my last slide. So as you can see, almost 85% of them use technology every day, where some use it only once to twice, and there's somebody else who said, well, they kind of assist the teachers with the technology integration more than anything else. And then this goes back to the professional development. So 53% of them have received it within Talbot County, which is awesome, but we still have 23% of ours that have never received technology integration professional development at all. And then our last graph we're going to look at right now is talking about those ISTE standards. So as you can see, this one bar is showing all of the people who had not been knowledgeable on the ISTE standards. We have a few that are like, nah, I think I've heard it, but I don't exactly know what it is. And only one of our teachers that responded says, yep, I know what the ISTE standards are. So this showed me a lot of information, a ton that I could take away and say, all right, what can I do with that information? So I came up with this proposed training program for technology integration. And by the end of this training, I really do hope that our teachers and staff members are not just aware of this information, but are able to use it within their classrooms. So my ultimate goal and objective are that we will end up analyzing the ISTE standards so they can use it in their classrooms. And I'm hoping that we can go and increase our teacher usage of the ISTE standards to at least 83% of them. So coming up on my proposed schedule, I have mapped this out to take place over a course of 8 months. And this is always something that can be adaptable, but as of right now, this is kind of what I'm looking at. So, what I want to do is I want to start with the basics. I want to start with, okay, what is technology integration? What does this look like for our schools? What does this look like for our classrooms? How are we using our technology right now? And each one of these trainings are going to be able to build upon each other. So that'll allow time for questions, that'll allow time for other people to come in, and we can even build lessons together. So, my next month, I would introduce the ISTE standards, what they are, how we can implement them. We will even be able to dive deep into them and look at how to access them and how can we implement them in our lessons. November, we'll introduce the 4 C's of technology, so creativity, collaboration, communication, and critical thinking, and how these are reflecting within our lesson plans, and be able to even reflect on some of our previous lessons and how these 4 C's show up already. Then we're going to dive into the next few months. So, December, we're looking at a Google Suite integration. So, currently, right now in Talbot County, we use Google Docs, we use Jamboards and slides and things like that. But how do we really integrate them within our classroom? I see some teachers using them, some teachers not. So, what we'll do is we'll actually have somebody from Google come and talk to us about the Google Suite integration. Very similarly, in January, we're going to talk about analyzing student data because most of our data is actually housed online, especially through eDoctrina. I think almost every teacher uses eDoctrina, even for our SLOs. How are we able to use this data and analyze it? So there is actually somebody from eDoctrina that is offering to help us through that process. February is when we dive into a blended classroom. So, what does this look like? How can we achieve this? And this will go back to the idea of, okay, the ISTE standards and the 4 C's. And then the last 2 months, we're talking about PBLs and technology integration because there's so much that you can do with problem-based learning or project-based learning, and talking about how that can show up for our classrooms and going back and still reflecting on those ISTE standards and the 4 C's. And lastly, we will actually end up writing lesson plans together and bring it all together. So over those course of the few months, we'll be looking at our units and how we can build them and make them even better using our technology integration. So, with that being said, that comes in the question of budget. So, I've kind of made some rough numbers just looking at this. Right now, with the Google certification educator offering to come in, our eDoctrina trainer, we have areas that we can use that fortunately do not cost anything for us. And then just basic kind of idea for refreshments, we're looking at just roughly about $1,500 for this entire 8 month training program. So I really do appreciate you offering or, opening up the time to listen to my proposed training. If there are any questions or anything further, please feel free to reach out to me, and I have my email and phone number on the screen. Thank you guys.